listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed, support causes that matter, change lives, change communities, change the world. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome, viewers and listeners. You are tuned in to the Wednesday edition of Kingston Community Radio's Wednesday morning radio show. We are broadcasting live from our studios here at 16 Lucas Avenue in Kingston, and we'd love to hear from you. 331-9255 is our call-in number. And in the door came Mayor of the Village of Saugerties, Bill Murphy. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And we are expecting Supervisor Fred Costello.
We are.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And we've got, let's see, I had to do some juggling around here. So at 7:30, we've got Neil Smoller. He'll be called in.
Oh, good.
And then at 8:05, Dan Whelan from the Boys and Girls Club. He'll be joining us virtually. And then Jillian Crane from the Children's First Responders.
You did get a hold of her yesterday.
Yes, I did get a hold of her. She was very excited. Next month, we're going to have Joanna Black on because we had quite a conversation with all her endeavors and that space that she's renovated, the old Red Onion.
Yep.
So we're going to squeeze her in at some point next month. And just an update on the WGHQ Happy Christmas Fund. To date, we have received $62,611. And Lawrence, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe our pledges were close to 70.
They were, actually, the day of the event, they were 66. But, with all the extra money that came in, we had a lot. Tony had raised a couple $1,000s just by writing letters or sending emails, I should say, to some of his other, Lorraine Salmon sent $500 in from the Ulster County Community College, from the foundation. So I have to add all that stuff up. We're about $3,000 off our goal.
Okay.
Because I haven't added in all the other stuff yet, but we're about $3,000 to $4,000, and I have that rounded up. I just got to go around and collect it. And I plan on doing that by the end of the week. So.
Then what about the boxes throughout Ulster County?
I haven't got to them yet. They're emptied. We're going to tackle them Monday.
Okay, so we got to add to that.
Right.
I'll bring from the ice arena. That
you can bring that next Wednesday.
Last counted that it was It was over 150.
Oh, wow.
So I wouldn't be a bit surprised, 200 or plus.
I expect.
And the fact that we're so busy this week, I generally keep it right through till New Year's.
Yeah, you said that the boxes came out for the banks on last Friday. They come out Christmas Eve.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
So I have to go and actually get online and look in the accounts with my mom and see what has been collected. I know usually Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union and Ulster Savings usually have, anywhere between, $500 to $1,000 in there. So we got to look in there and see what's going on. And last year we did so well and we were so busy we didn't get a chance to empty them all. So this year we're going to empty them all, add it to the total, and we should be good. I mean, we're already doing better than last year. Last year we were about $8,000 light from collecting stuff. So right now we're about $3,900 to $4,000 light from collecting everything.
Oh, so that's what you figured that differential is from the amount pledged
Yeah,
to the
for
amount
that 62,000
Yeah.
right there is what from the day of the event. So we're about 4,000 light from, and I know where it is. I'm going to go get it.
Okay.
I've matched up all the what I wrote down.
No, I was just hoping that people didn't call. And
Some of them just forgot. That's all.
Well, yes, I mean, and that's
all it was.
understandable.
They forgot.
I just hope that nobody would call in and pledge an amount and then renege on it. You know what I'm saying?
They didn't do that. And when I called to remind them, they were like, "Oh my God, I forgot."
Yeah, and people do forget. It's a busy time of the year.
It is a busy time, and let's not forget, it was almost 2 months ago, the day of the event.
Right.
So no big deal.
Yeah.
As soon as I called them, they were happy that they're come right over and
Good.
And
Good.
most of them were big amounts too. I remember. I think it was George Post that told me like 5-6 years ago. He's like, "You'll never have a problem collecting the $100 or the $200 ones. You'll get those right away." Everybody they usually write them right on the spot.
Yeah.
And he was right. Usually, it's some of the other people, and one person, a couple guys needed receipts. I didn't know about that. We had new people answering the phones this year. Next year, we're going to be doing it here. We're going to have a computer system set up to where the person that answers the phone types it into the. We're all going to have, like, there's going to be a computer in here, a computer in there, and a computer in there. So the people answering the phone don't have to get up and keep running tickets in.
Right.
We'll see it right on the computer.
Nice.
We'll call it out right on the air.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I found out you could do it all on Microsoft Excel on a spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
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 That's it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So.
That's how I keep track of mine.
Right.
That comes in prior to what I hand you
And we're all going to be on the spreadsheet on the same time online. So,
Yeah. So, Mayor, what's new and exciting?
I don't know.
You don't know. But I do know one thing.
What's that?
Last week, I had reported to you that the snowman atop that beautiful Christmas tree at the Reese parking lot was not lit. And then, I don't know, I just heard a rumor from a little birdie that, set upon my shoulder. So did you hop up onto the village ladder truck and go up and repair that snowman?
No.
Or is that just a false rumor by the little birdie?
That was a false rumor. That wasn't me. Now, the guys got the lift, I think, on Christmas Eve, and they got it, or not Christmas Eve, Thursday, the next day.
Oh, that's what they borrowed the lull for.
They borrowed your lift for it, yeah.
Okay, all right. I was saying, what on earth are they doing on Christmas Eve?
I did supervise it, but I was down there and I saw them. They actually took it off, brought it up to there was something wrong with the thing, so they took it off, brought it to the
So
garage.
you took care of the electrical short once they brought it down to the ground?
Of course, yes. That's my expertise, So nope, we had to have that lit for Christmas. So they got that. They were right on it and took care of it. So
I've commented previously here on the radio show, but I don't think the village has ever looked any better at Christmas time. The old J.J. Newberry's, that display, and leaving Stewart's in the morning, I go right down Main Street, and this morning, because it is very dark, it really looks spectacular.
It's nice when a lot of the business owners this year, obviously Smith's always does it out, and their windows are always top notch, and the old J.J. Newberry's, she did a very nice job, and a few other buildings, so it always adds to it when the buildings take pride. We did have someone come to a meeting. I think it was a meeting I missed, but they inquired about us possibly relighting the top of all the buildings again, like we used to. We used to have lights across all the top of the buildings, and we're not opposed to it, but there are building owners who didn't want it anymore. That's why we stopped doing it. Like, we had it, and every year the fire department would go out and check the lights, and they would replace any bulbs. And then, over the years, we got some new business owners, and they're like, well, I don't want them on my building, and I'm not paying for electricity. And, so, like, the enthusiasm.
Well, understandable. I mean, it might be a better approach. I mean, it was nice, But I know after a few years, some of the lights, with the wind, that I don't know. I think nobody's constantly looking up.
Right. I think it should be all or nothing. I mean, you have one here, one there, but so we are looking into, going to have a chamber, contact the building owners and see maybe if they're all interested in doing it, we could put together a plan to try to get them, because you look at some of the buildings, the lights are still there.
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't work anymore, or the building owners have unplugged them. But I have some buildings that really want to do it, so it would certainly add to it and be nice, but I'm not going to force building owners to put lights on their buildings,
No. So the fire department was the one that installed them?
Well, they would maintain them every year. They'd go out every year in December and do a check.
Who actually purchased?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think, I would assume, I think we did, and the fire department would go out usually like 2 nights, and they would test all the lights in all the buildings. And, it used to be a nice night. I mean, different business owners would come and bring them coffee and pizza, and they'd make a night out of it, and then probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I think they stopped doing it just because we had so few buildings that were interested in doing it anymore, so we'll see. Maybe next year.
Yep.
And then I saw what was nice, Knights of Columbus always had a nativity scene every year, Knights of Columbus, and they came to a village board meeting since they don't own the building anymore. Next, could we put up in the village? And, we offered that we would, and then the American Legion did. And then I recommended to them to go back to the Kelders to see if they'd be interested in keeping it right at the Knights of Columbus. And evidently they did. I didn't hear back from them, but then all of a sudden I came by one night and there it was back at Knights of Columbus, which
I saw that.
I had no doubt that, that the Kelders would have no problem, maintaining that tradition at the building. And it was nice to see that in its usual spot again.
And the tree.
Yep. Yep. So that was good. And then, we had, as we're not having New Year's Eve celebration this year. It's funny because I had a call last week with one particular newspaper, and I said, we're not going to have it this year. The committee met in November, with just myself, Chief Snagra, Freddie, Janine, Mayor, Bob Circonsano, Mike Ivino, and Cindy Benjamin, and we didn't meet. We just kind of exchanged emails to see what we were going to do. It was recommended that we put it off one more year, and seeing the way the numbers were going. So I informed that to the one newspaper. The next day, the headline on Christmas Day, New Year's Eve in the village canceled. I literally called them up on Christmas Day. I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "To cancel something means you must have scheduled it first."
It was never scheduled.
It was never scheduled, so it's not canceled. I said, "Because you make me sound like the Grim Reaper, like I'm canceling New Year's." I said, "Well, you're not having it." I said, "Right, but we never planned it." So, but then to the Freeman's credit, Ariel called me on Monday. Yeah, just yesterday, right? Or Sunday. Today's Wednesday. So she called me on Monday. I said, actually the same question. She goes, "I heard it's canceled." I said, "No, Ariel, it's not canceled." Oh, okay, so Freeman had the correct headline. Saugerties chooses not to have New Year's Eve celebration this year. And I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and considering right now, 441 new cases across the country yesterday. That was the 441,000 new cases.
I heard 465,000.
Okay, maybe it's 465.
That's what I heard on radio.
I could have had
I couldn't figure out, was that new cases or total cases?
No, new cases yesterday.
See, they said that on radio this morning, and I'm like, they said 465,000 new cases, and I'm like, is that total or is that just one day?
And then in New York State, 1 out of 5 that tested positive.
My God.
And those numbers are the highest at any point since the pandemic started.
I did hear that. So yeah, it was the right, and I in my statement I released, I said, please go out, patronize the local restaurants, stay local. We just don't need to have a mass gathering in the street at midnight, And people forget, it's like, this has not been like a decades-long tradition. I think I started my first New Year's celebration in 15.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think it's been more than 5-6 years. So that'd be right, 15.
It was the New Year's that went to 15. No, New Year's I went to 16. 15 to 16 is the first year I did it.
15 to 16?
That's the first year I did it. And I just, for personal reasons, I remember why. As the year my brother passed, he died in...
I think it was 14 to 15.
14 to 15, yes.
Now that I'm thinking about it,
was.
because I'm thinking about how the weather was.
Yes.
And then 17 to 18 was that brutal cold.
Oh,
it was
awful.
brutally cold. Okay, I think the hydraulics on Mike's truck seized up, froze up.
Yeah, we'd done it 5 years, which is nice, and I'm glad it's a tradition we started. But now, and again, last year this time we're saying, okay, it's canceled this year, but we're hoping to have it next year, and here we are next year, and we still can't do it. But you
sitting here and thinking about where we were last Christmas and thinking, wow, by next Christmas, meaning now, we would be out of this. The vaccines would be working. But just, unfortunately, as we went through that period from March of 20 right through to a year ago this time, everything was vaccines, couldn't wait for the vaccines to get out. Yep. And then when the vaccines finally rolled out, they proved that they were not only successful, but highly successful. I mean, initially the percentage of efficacy was 65%. And then when Pfizer came out with 93%, yep, and Moderna came out somewhere right similar in that neck of the woods, and then the reluctancy of people to get it. And, you just got to wonder if a higher percentage of the population had gotten vaccinated. And of course, this would have to be not only in the United States, throughout the world. Would have this new variant had the opportunity to materialize?
Yeah, what was it? One country I forgot. I think it said, was it Israel, or I think it was that 90% vaccinated.
That's that's great. That's
and I think we're at 68 or 70, somewhere around there. But think about, you're talking 68, 70% of 300 million people, as opposed to 90% of a couple million people.
The other staggering, and this wasn't yesterday. This would have probably been Monday, unless I heard it on Monday for Sunday on World News, was that the number of deaths in New York State, out of all the deaths in New York State, only 1% of that number
were vaccinated.
Yeah.
Oh,
99% of the deaths were non-vaccinated individuals.
Well,
now, if that doesn't tell you something right there,
it's and every day right now, like a year ago, I still knew very few people who were infected. Every day right now, I'm hearing of people I know that test positive. And not only that, but I mean, I hadn't known anybody personally that had passed in the first year, and I've known 3 people in the past month that passed.
Right.
I mean, not close personal people, but people I knew, right, and socially, and those 3, from what I understand, weren't vaccinated. I don't know for sure. I know 2. I know 1 definitely wasn't, and then the other 2 I heard weren't. But
if we're thinking of the same people, and obviously we're not mentioning any names, I know that 2 out of those 3 were not.
And it's hard to judge. You don't know why they weren't vaccinated. And you can't pass judgment on people. Because I have a very, very close friend, one of my best friends, and you know him as well, who's not vaccinated, but he has legitimate medical reasons why he's not vaccinated. There
are some, and I know of 3 people who have blood disorders, right, and their primary doctor or their hematologist will not give them authorization for a vaccine. So, that you can't hold against anybody, certainly.
And again, it's hard to hold free choice against people, too, people who choose not to get vaccinated. I just don't understand why, if you don't have a medical reason. That's, and again, I respect everybody's own decisions. Everybody, it's your own body. However, if you're doing it just because, to make a statement, it's not the best statement to be making.
True.
But, there's people out there who refuse to get flu shots. I get a flu shot every year.
Yeah, and that's the other piece of the puzzle here. The flu is running rampant throughout the state, throughout the Northeast, the Hudson Valley. And here again, I know of 4 that had COVID-like symptoms. 3 of them went to their doctors, and they had all tested negative and were diagnosed with flu, which, at this time of the year, you stop to think before pre-pandemic days, the percentage of people that had the flu, and they would come out with these elevated levels of the flu, whether it was low, medium, or high in any one given area. So that's making things even more complicated.
Well, you'll like this quick story. I ran into somebody, and again, we won't mention names, and a friend, good guy. I ran into him on Christmas Eve, and he was complaining that he couldn't get a test. And I said, well, the town, I am at Village Hall. I've been giving them out on the Village website. The town, I heard the town drive-through was a shit show. I said, no, it wasn't. I said,
it was the opposite.
I said, it's the opposite. I said, every car that came in had to fill out names. They were tagged. If it was a family of 2, they got 1 test. Family of more than 2, they got 2 tests. If there's 2 families in a car, it's denoted. He goes, well, I know one guy who got 4 tests for his family, and that's wrong. I said, well, there were people who cheated the system. They came through twice. That can't be controlled. But I said, the town did an incredible job giving it out, extremely organized. And he's like, well, and he's like, I really need a test, and I got family coming over. So I went home, and I had my 2 tests at the house, and about 4 o'clock on Christmas Eve, I drove to this person's house. I said, Merry Christmas. Here's a test. And he was very grateful. He's like, oh,
that was going to be the next thing I was going to ask. But, why do people have to take and amplify, or in this case, it was far from being accurate information.
I defended it. And
because, I was there the entire time.
Right.
Supervisor Fred Costello just walked in from the town of Saugerties. He was there. Okay? And if anything, Mark Ryder, he spent the whole time there from...
and I think when I said to him, I said, that we found out afterwards, and Greg had told me that there were people... They identified 3 or 4 people who went through the line twice and got double the test. And you know what? You can't fix that, okay?
It's hard when you have people, and some of the people there were volunteers.
Absolutely.
To put them, and, I've always said we're experiencing at the ice arena right now with people refusing to wear masks. Don't get into confrontations. We're not the police, okay? Right. We weren't the... vaccine kit handout police, and we're not the mask police. It's the same way when security goes and maybe locks the satellite parks. If somebody refuses to leave, they don't get into a confrontation. That's not our job. That's that's the police department's job. So it's very, very difficult. And that person has to understand, if that person was handing out those vaccines kit, would that person want to be put in that predicament and have that kind of a confrontational matter?
No, I agree. No.
And overwhelmingly, that went well.
No, and I defended, and I had to say, he kind of understood after I told him, and I was still a little, because I defend, just like you guys defend me, I defend you guys, and I went home and I'm like, and I didn't realize Dana had gotten a test from school, and I had my 2 tests. I said, we got an extra one. So I got my car, knocked at his door. He laughed. He's like, I can't believe you brought me one. I said, well, I felt bad. I said, and he's a good guy, and I'm glad I did it.
But the better approach would have been to make a call to you, make a call to the supervisor, instead of...
Well, in all defense, it was Christmas Eve, so all offices were closed. This was Christmas Eve day. Christmas Eve morning I ran into him, so our offices were closed, and I'm sure town offices were closed on Christmas Eve, right? So it was a difficult day.
And closed a little bit early.
And I knew he was having family over, so that put his mind at ease. I know I can get an extra test if I need it. We had to use
that was the point of our distribution, though, is to get them out in time so that folks could get together.
The county's giving out 20,000 tests today in
correct.
2 different locations. Yeah.
So for folks that are listening and are interested and could not get a test from whatever resources have been available so far, you can go to Tech City, and they're going to do a mass distribution beginning at 6 p.m., and I think they have 3,000 at that location for our section of the county. And then I think there's a second distribution happening in New Paltz. But the county website has a web page.
They have 20,000 total tests.
Total, and there's a couple locations where they're near families and neighborhoods. So there's an opportunity today for people to get tests. And ironically, they're doing it as a drive-through. Yeah, I think part of that was the successful experience that we
I'm sure Mark Ryder brought that back to the county and said, hey, it works.
Yeah. They had good.
Hey, we set the bar high in Saugerties.
We do. But so that's happening today. And then the mayor and I have been assured by the county government that as more test kits become available, we're going to do distributions again.
I'm going to continue. Yeah, I'm going to continue just doing it right in my office. That worked well for the village because for most people, village residents, it's a walk. And I think we gave away almost all 200 that we had. I think I gave 30 out to employees. Every employee got one, and then we had 170 to give out. Whatever. And I think they're pretty much gone.
That's good. And I've seen them in people
have been extremely grateful to get them too.
Yeah. Especially right now.
To get them free as opposed to paying for them in a pharmacy. Yeah. Right? I think pharmacies are charging for them
$20.
Yeah,
I've seen them as high as $35. So there's certainly demand right now, and this is a way. If there's a family member who's been exposed, you can keep your household safe by understanding if there needs to be an opportunity for quarantine.
I had someone tell me the other day it's Biden's fault we don't have enough tests. I'm like, come on.
Something extraordinary is happening, and it's understated. The numbers are breaking the records that we experienced at the height of the pandemic when we first learned about
But the hospitalizations are not, which is good. That's the nice. And I said that a year and a half ago. I think probably we talked right in this room, and not that I'm any expert by any means, but I always gauge the severity based on the hospitalizations.
That's the important metric,
and that's obviously the huge metric right now, and that's what they're saying right now. The hospitals are not being overwhelmed, and I just heard a debate on the way down this morning from another expert who doesn't agree with this 5-day period. He said it's not long enough, and it's just funny how, you have two experts in the same field, and the CDC saying, okay, 5 days incubation period, and the other guy saying, no way, it's not enough. I mean, that's where people get scared because you're not getting accurate information.
And just after they issued that Monday, yesterday they came out where I heard Fauci saying that the incubation period for the COVID is less than the Delta at 3 days. The Delta was 4 and the original was 5.
Well, this guy's saying 5 days is fine if you get a negative test. But the problem is there are not enough tests available. So it's kind of like,
Well, this is the other thing that Fauci or that other one from the Cleveland medical whatever was saying that when the CDC came out with the new guideline, it didn't say anything about requiring a negative test after the 5 days. And I mean that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think that's common sense. Take a and if after 5 days you have a negative test, okay, you're good to go. Because they're saying, I guess for 2 to 3 days later, it could still stay in the back of your throat and in your nostrils where you could still spread it.
Right. Yeah, and that's the importance of wearing a mask.
Right. Mask. I'm getting back used to wearing it again. It's like,
Yeah,
like
you know
hard.
what? So am I.
I used to have a stack wrapped around the gear shift in my car, and over the summer they all went to go. Guess what? They're all back out now. My wife's like, "Are you gonna wash them?" I'm like, "Maybe. I don't know." I said, "It's my spit. I don't care." Her and my daughter make fun, like, "Dad, you got to wash your mask." I'm like, "Well, that's why I get the dark one so you can't see it, But I come home, I'll take the laundry out. My wife did a little laundry. All their masks are in there and they're full. And I'm like, "Oh, you're supposed to wash those things?" I didn't realize that.
Before you had walked in commenting to your comment a couple minutes ago, and the mayor corrected me. I had the number actually a little low, but yesterday across the United States there were 465 new cases. That was the. I'm sorry?
You keep leaving 1,000 off. You make it sound like it's 465. It's 465.
Yeah, 465,000 across the United States, which was the single highest number ever since the pandemic started. And of the deaths in New York State, 99% of the deaths were unvaccinated people. 1% were vaccinated.
It's a shame. God, I was listening to CNN last week, and they had a story, this one family, 4 kids, and their father died of cancer in October, and their mother died of COVID in December, and neither of them were vaccinated, and now their aunt's raising them. And then another story, this 18-year-old boy who's both his parents died of COVID. No, the one before, both parents died within 2 weeks of COVID, and now the aunt's raising them, the 4 kids. And the other one's an 18-year-old who lost both his parents, one to cancer, one to COVID within a 4-week period. Now he's 18 years old. He's Division I prospect for college football, and now he's raising his younger siblings. And that's where you see the impact.
Yeah, because that's not going to change next week. That's a generational thing that won't.
And that's
go
the other
away
part.
Ever.
The adults who are choosing, and again, Greg, I had this conversation, for medical reasons, not getting vaccinated, it's everybody's choice. And I have no problem with anybody having a medical reason, but I mean, if you have young kids and you're choosing not to get vaccinated just because, make a political statement, I mean, look at all these parents that are leaving their kids as orphans. I mean, I just don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't get it either. And I mean, the writing is clearly on the wall. And we also talked about this a bit earlier here. There are people where their primary physician or hematologist will not allow them, to get the vaccine because of either a blood disorder or some kind of medical condition. And obviously, you can't hold that against anyone, because then if the vaccine ends up being more detrimental.
Correct.
But those people have to be extremely, extremely careful, especially with mask wearing, just so that, one, they don't get it, and two, they don't spread it because of the high contingency rate of this new variant.
Yeah, that number's startling. What you just shared, I didn't see that 400 and something.
I heard on CNN on the way down.
I thought it was 440 something, and he corrected me.
And you can listen to 3 different newscasts and get 3 different numbers.
Yeah,
that's
but
but you have to know where the number's coming from. If it's CDC or National Institute of Health, I kind of take that.
Did you get a new phone?
Sort of. I got a new old phone.
New old phone.
Good God.
Where's your pager?
I'm in.
One phone drove him crazy.
I'm messing with two phones.
Now what is two going to do? I hope you don't go to the bridge.
This is an effort to make life easier, and you can see how it's going.
Okay, with that, we're at the bottom of the hour. It's time for a break, and hopefully when we return, we'll have Neil Smoller with us virtually.
Listening.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages?
Listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston, on your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride.
All right, something's wrong with the commercials. All right, so I can't play commercials for some reason, so we're just going to have to go right to Neil. Neil's on the line. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning.
That was enthusiastic. Good morning, Neil. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this, jumping in here. We had a cancellation, and it's been a while since we heard from you. I'm sure you got quite a bit to share with us, so thank you for taking the time.
No problem.
The mayor said hi, nephew. He wasn't by the mic. He's getting a refill of his coffee.
Yeah.
And for all the listeners out there, Neil's not really my nephew. He's my surrogate nephew. So, just so.
Your brother's trying to steal the brand, though. He refers to him as Uncle, too.
Tim?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I saw it.
So for our listeners and viewers who do not recognize the voice and who Neil is, we got Neil Smoller joining us virtually, who has just done a tremendous job throughout this whole pandemic. He's also the owner of Village Apothecary in Woodstock, and you still continue to go and go and go.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I just keep saying yes. The problem is that everybody knows my trigger button. Like, if you just say, hey, good job, Neil, I appreciate it, I just do more, and that's part of the problem. That everybody is saying, thank you, you're doing awesome, and then I just end up saying, all right, well, let's just keep going. So we are everywhere right now. We're currently, besides doing vaccinations, we just crossed the 52,000 doses given mark. So we're almost more doses since I stopped doing clinics given after that point than before, which is crazy. We're almost to that point where we're halfway there. And so we've got that, but then we're also testing, and we're helping school districts meet the mandate. And so we are in 99 different sites every week.
99?
Ulster and Dutchess County. It is insanity what I have going on right now. We have 40 new employees. that are getting their supplies from our store and then schlepping all across 2 counties to get to the school districts before they open at like 6:30 to test faculty, staff, and students to help them comply with a mandate. And so we have this intense testing program that's operating in the community, and then we have tests now being done at the Apothecary, and we seem to be the only place that has a supply on tests. And so we are extremely popular right now. I've never seen my store so stinking busy with people coming in for testing. And so
Neil, these people are coming in to get tested at your business or to buy kits?
Yeah, both. For some reason, I was able to get, a line on home test kits where nobody else can. And the line is still open, so I keep buying them because people keep getting them from us. And if you don't know much about the testing supply chain, there's shortages. So then they jack up the prices. And then, basically what people were buying tests for a couple months ago before Omicron was a threat is what they're trying to sell it to me for. So then everything gets marked up exponentially. And so I've been able to find sources at the same prices to keep the prices contained because everybody else is just buying whatever they can and then jacking the prices up.
Yeah, I observed the prices ticking up. And it's a little bit unfortunate because I think it disqualifies some families from being able to have a number of kits.
I was at Neil's.
Of course.
I was at his apothecary last week. I think I counted 8 people working that day.
Yeah,
it was just a madhouse.
And we have our nursing staff coming in and helping out, and it's a madhouse in my pharmacy. We have to have crowd control people.
It wasn't too bad when I was there, but it was busy. Definitely busy. I think I was there last Monday or Tuesday, and staff was great.
It's just too much, man. To be quite honest with you, it's like
I asked them where you were. They said we don't know where the hell he is.
You could guess one of 99 sites.
I said, where's my nephew? They're like, who knows? He's someplace. He's all over the county.
I was somewhere else, probably testing or giving vaccines.
Oh, that's what they said. Yeah, they said we can't. We see him. They're complimenting you on just how busy you are, and
it's pretty intense. The whole process has been pretty wild. So I'm happy to do it, of course, because just like with the vaccines. If there wasn't a big source of this stuff in the who would be doing this testing in the schools if we didn't speak up, right? So we started out with just a couple districts in Ulster and a couple districts in Dutchess, and we are now doing 7 out of 9 districts in Ulster County and nearly every district in Dutchess County. So they've all turned to us and said, listen, you're providing great service. We want you to do it. So, who would be doing that, right? Who would be, the thousands of COVID tests that we all know you can't get, right? So, it would look like New York City with lines down the block if we weren't able to perform it. So I'm happy to be able to do it. It's really cool that, we can be that for everybody, So,
well, I mean,
the crazy part here is that I'm saying that we have a line on a supply chain, and right now my PCR testing, which is the definitive testing for COVID, they just told me that they have a back order, which they told me that they would never have. And so I'm ready to because I do 60 of those a day, and I'm ready to rip my face off trying to think about how I have to either drive somewhere and pick some up or in Massachusetts or Florida and
wow.
Or just cancel a bunch of appointments, and that's going to be hard, So we're just trying to navigate. That's what I'm up every day, 4 or 5 o'clock, and just kind of getting caught up on paperwork and trying to get everything ready for the day. And then we just kind of blast through the day, and then at the end of the day, I'm normally in bed 7, 8, 9 o'clock after I've wrapped up work for the day. So it's just been a very intense cycle, So
Neil, having the opportunity to have you on today is, I think, a conversation that would be beneficial to us and our listeners is these home test kits that are becoming fairly available.
Yeah.
They're certainly a tool, but they come with a responsibility, and very few people actually know how to use them
properly.
That's right. 100%. We say it quite often, actually. And in fact, all of our test kits are accompanied with a with a like a sheet that I wrote up. We've given 2,000 tests a week for 12 weeks now. So we have a lot of experience picking people's noses and doing these tests correctly, you know?
Mhm.
And so there are things that people need to know. And the most important thing that people understand about rapid antigen tests is that it is not definitive if it's negative. And that's a weird thing for people to understand, but a negative antigen test isn't definitive. A negative PCR test, if done correctly, is much more definitive for a negative than a antigen test is. So that's where people say, okay, well, the PCR test is kind of the gold standard. But all tests have to be done at the right time. If you do a test too early and you get a negative, that doesn't mean that you don't have COVID. That means that you have a negative test right now. And it's up to practitioners like me and your physician to be able to tell you a story. And that story is filled in. One of the story points is that test, but it's part of a bigger picture. And so let me kind of elaborate on that, right? So you go to my store, you buy a negative, you buy an antigen test, you go home and it's negative, right? And so then you say, okay, well, now I can hang out with my family. Well, what if you were exposed 2 days ago to somebody? The virus is setting up shop in your body and won't be to a level that can be detected by a test. Well, now you've gotten together with your family then that day, later that day, the next day, and now you're contagious, right? And so that's the problem with rapid antigen testing, is that far too many people are using them as a definitive answer, and they're just part of an entire story. So if I was the kind of person, if you lived like me, right? So I'm in everybody's noses, but I'm wearing full PPE when I'm doing that. I've got an N95, face shield, gown, gloves, the whole thing, right? So I'm not getting COVID that way, right? But if at home, we are pretty much locked down. We just hang out with my sister-in-law, and we're just at the house. The kids can't go play with their friends. We are just at home is pretty much what we're doing. That's one part. I've gotten my 2 vaccine doses. I've gotten my booster, right? That's another part of the story. And then the third part of the story would be an antigen test. If I took a test and it came out negative, because those other things are true, I've been behaving myself, I don't go out to dinner, I don't do all that other stuff, I'm boosted, vaccinated, and I only hang out with certain people that I know are doing the same thing, then that negative test is pretty much, yeah, you don't have COVID, right? That tells a full story. But if I was going out to restaurants and enjoying myself and not really wearing PPE correctly, never really wore a mask, didn't get my booster quite yet, and then I got a negative antigen, I can't really hang my hat on that. The whole story kind of says, yeah, that's not a good answer. And so that's the most important thing that people understand when we're looking at this, is that you have to.
The variable in the scenario you just described is that, there's 3 of us fairly in close proximity this morning doing a radio show. And so the 3 of us, we are vaccinated and boosted. So we check many of those boxes. However, if I was exposed as a result of being somewhere where someone became ill, and I took the test this morning, but it happened yesterday, it's likely that I may not be contagious yet, but I could still be carrying the virus. And at some point today or tomorrow, I could be contagious to others.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that you could potentially have a negative COVID test, which just tells one part of a story, and that's it.
So, Neil, let me ask you this. What, in your opinion, and maybe this is an unfair question because maybe it varies case by case, but from the time you have direct contact with an individual that is confirmed positive, what is the time frame out? Is it 48 hours? Is it 72 hours? Where the ideal testing
says 3 to 5 days is the current and recommendation. So it's 3 to 5 days post-exposure. So somebody says to you, hey, man, we were just hanging out. I'm positive for COVID. It doesn't make sense to test anytime inside of 3 days. You want to test at least 3 days out, and it would be best to test closer to 5. Then that's if you're asymptomatic. If you become symptomatic, then you can probably test a little bit earlier.
Right.
So a lot of the test kits say 2 tests, and that's the point of it. So after 3 days, you could take a test, which would give you the first indication of whether you're positive or not. But then after the 5th day, you should use that second test that's part of the kit, and that would give you a more
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that's kind of them just trying to sell more test kits to people. Because two isn't enough. To do rapid antigen testing correctly, it needs to be done regularly. That's what the advantage of rapid antigen testing is. It's like a frequent surveillance tool. So how we handled getting ready for Christmas wasn't a test that day. It was 5 tests before and 2 tests after. So we tested every day for 5 days prior, and then we tested for 2 days after. And so regular testing is what matters. So if you think about my surveillance program with New York State, they say, we just want weekly testing, especially on unvaccinated people. So that regular check in, right, that's a valuable tool. The fact that the person's negative right then and there means nothing, trust me, because they'll turn up positive a couple days later, right? But if you look at my total testing program since the start of this, over 12 weeks, that regular screening has caught people that were asymptomatic, right? And that's the point, is that it requires frequent testing. So 2, there is no magic number. The testing is a part of a story. And as we've said with COVID, it's all about multiple mitigation strategies, not just vaccination, not just boosting, not just wearing masks, not just social distancing. Everybody that is anti this COVID stuff, with no answer to be given by them, by the way, is against one or more of those things. But and they may have solid criticism that masks won't stop COVID, right? That is true. Nobody said it won't. But masks with boosting and with social distancing and reduced social stuff will stop the spread of COVID, and we know that, right? So then you just add testing now to it. So a negative test won't be definitive to tell you that you don't have COVID. But a bunch of negative tests along with the other mitigation strategies will give you confidence that you don't have COVID. And that's the problem, is that we're, again, not to discredit the municipalities, the state, or the counties that are trying to get tests in people's hands. We're getting tests, which is good, and we're trying to mature up our supply chain so that way we can deliver lots of tests to people. But we can only give people 1 or 2 tests. And then people are using it as that definitive, okay, I don't have COVID. And that's not going to help us. That's actually going to make it worse.
So from listening to you, ideally, if a person is asymptomatic, was in direct contact with an individual that tested positive, 3 days out, 72 hours out, they test. Mm-hmm. And then 2 days later, they retest at the 5-day mark.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
But I guess my question is, and I mean, I'm not downplaying it because I've used the test, is really, when does the test period end? Because, all right, so that 2 days after you test negative, okay, but what if you're exposed for some reason in those 2 days? When does the test end? Should we be taking tests every day? I mean, it's like...
so
you know what I'm saying?
So the best mechanism for testing in a population, so they have this stuff called pooled testing. So there are some populations that submit testing every day, right? And so because almost everybody's going to be negative, they lump 20 to 40 tests together, right? So you're in line with 20 people, and those 20 people, you get swabbed, and all of your swabs go into one sample, and it's cheaper because it's all these people at once that are doing it. And then if one of those people come up negative, or that whole sample comes up negative, then all they have to do is retest those 20 specific people, but then all those other pods of 20 don't have to get tested. And so that's how some populations will handle it. They'll test everybody. So I'm not speaking out of turn, but the Millbrook School, which is a private school, that's how they test their population. So those kids, it's a contained unit, right? It's a boarding school, right? And so they do pooled testing to kind of test every single day, but then they can identify, and it's cheaper. Other places, here's an example of testing that is much more efficient. So you have somebody who's unvaccinated that's exposed. The Test to Stay program, which is a New York State CDC thing that New York State allows, we do for Wappinger School District, Beacon School District, and now Arlington School District. Wappingers has a kid that's exposed. They would have to go home for 10 days. But instead, we do Test to Stay. So now we test them every day for 7 days, and as long as they're negative, they stay in school. Now, do some of those people turn positive? Yes, of course they do. But 11 out of 177 kids turned positive the day before Christmas. So all of those kids, 160 kids, get to go back to school. So this is kind of like a focused testing intervention. So again, for you, does it make sense to test every day? No, it just makes better, because you're right. People are going to, like, I walk into grocery stores. Now it's a mandate, but like I walk into the gas station, right, and I see my patients that I killed myself to make sure that they got their doses for, that have super comorbidities without a mask. And they're walking into just like a convenience store to do that. What else are they doing in their lives that isn't correct, right?
They lift the door handle on the way in.
Right. So does it make sense for everybody to test every day? Well, I mean, if you're going to live your life kind of like willy-nilly, then it might make sense, but we don't have the supply chain for that, right? So
exactly.
So right. So it's tough, and so the answer is that, you know, we are going to be in this hell for a long time.
I mean, the bottom line is the test is not the answer. The test is a barometer.
Right. The test is one part of a story, and that's what's important. Now, if it's positive, there's a lot of talk about, well, positive, you know, false positives with antigen tests. And to be honest with you, if it's done correctly, I don't find that to be true. Every single positive that we've done, which is probably 10 a day, you know, at our store, and probably 20 a day in the school districts, those have been confirmed positives. So the positives line up really, really well. So if you're positive, you know.
Right.
For our listeners and viewers, Neil, do you need an appointment?
So the way that we're handling antigen testing right now is that you do not need an appointment for an antigen test. You do have to be registered, and that's the hardest part. Is like, you know, when you get your vaccine, you have to answer all those stupid questions. Well, you have to do that for testing too, right? And so that's the part right now that we have people do in advance. And so, we require people to be registered. For PCR, we do require appointments. And like I said, I'm going to have to give a lot of people some bad news this morning, because it doesn't look like I've got a good supply. I was hoping that while we're talking here, I was going to get some answers from some people, but I don't know. So,
but that's for the PCR, correct?
The PCR test, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's a big nightmare, man. This whole thing has been insane, you know.
Yeah,
it's just been crazy.
Hopefully, you kept a diary, because your experience in handling this from the very beginning, I think, has been extraordinary, and I think it's probably been overwhelming on the daily. So hopefully, you have some notes or references that at some point in the future you can kind of memorialize everything that you've been through, and you know, what you learned, and you did help a lot of people. So that's got to make you feel good at some level.
My God, yeah, like it's incredible. Like, you know, the whole, like I said, there was something wrong with me mentally, clearly, right?
I've known that a long time.
There was something that I felt like I had to prove in myself since I've been young, and this definitely helped me scratch that itch. And that's actually what I said to my crew, the volunteers, when we did that award ceremony. Was like, listen, like, not only did you help the community, but you helped me like fix whatever was wrong with me. Like, I was able to paint on this bigger canvas and help so many people, which I always knew I could do, but I never had the opportunity. So like, I definitely am professionally fulfilled by this whole thing.
You see, not only should he be doing a diary, but when we get through this, and you know, more than likely, and how do you feel about this? Because this is my analysis of the thing. I don't think coronavirus is ever going to go away. I think it's going to be with us, just like the flu is with us, and just like others. But maybe a better way to put it: once we have this under control, Neil's going to write a book, and he'll become a billionaire.
Sounds like a good
plan. He'll have autograph sessions because he'll have too much time on his hands.
Yeah, that's right. I'm bored, so I want to do that too. Yeah, I mean, I know, like, the more important thing here is what you just said about it's going to be with us, and I think that's important for everybody to understand what that really means. And I believe that Omicron is kind of the real test here. So if Omicron ends up actually being mild for people that have boosters and people that get infected with it, and it ends up, we don't have the long COVID stuff, the hospitalizations stay low, then policy is going to turn really quickly. And it already has started, right, where the quarantine period is now 5 days instead of 10. Right. And so we've have a turn in policy, and that's what's going to start to happen to make it more normal. So mask mandates, I think, should follow surges. So as soon as we start to see a new spread, it should be done a month in advance, not like a week before it hits us, right? So because if it's a month ahead, that's actually when it's spreading, right? That's when it's moving around. So I believe that we should do mask mandates that follow surges. And that should be something that stays forever. I believe that, boosters and vaccines need to be mandated at certain places to help make sure that the experience is contiguous, meaning school. If you don't mandate vaccines at schools like all other vaccines are, you're going to have disruptions and this costly service to make sure that everybody's safe inside the schools. Those school districts, the thing that people don't understand is how much it's costing in emotional resources and financial resources for the schools to maintain their status quo. Here's a good example. People don't understand how much they have to do to just get those stupid kids out of the schools. Every day, to get them on the buses and out of the schools, it is a well-coordinated circus that goes on every single day that they have to do for kids' safety because of the school shootings and all the crazy stuff that's going on, right? And so now you add a layer on top of it, which is COVID, which you're trying to prevent transmission through the schools. It's insanity. The administrators, the nurses, everybody, the teacher, everybody is all hands in, and there's so much stuff that's going on. Now, if we mandated vaccines and then we could sit back and look at the data, it's going to greatly reduce that cost, emotional, physical, and resource-wise, right? And so we need to do these things to get back to normal. Everybody wants to get back to normal, but nobody has a good solution. And so what we need to do is, hopefully these variants mutate to a weaker place, and then everybody is compliant, and we have good, sound policies, and then we can go back to normal. People can go back to work. And my fear right now is that Omicron is going to cause, 30 to 40% positivity rates with people that are testing publicly. Forget the at-home test that nobody's even reporting. We have a 30% rolling average right now, right, in some areas. And so, if a third of the workforce has to quarantine for 5 to 10 days, what does that do? That's a shutdown in and of itself, right? Mm-hmm. Except it's this weird fragmented shutdown. So, again, we need to understand what Omicron is going to be. We need to make sure that we get through it, and it is truly mild. And then we have to change our policies to make it so we can get back to normal, because like everybody else, I'm sick of this crap too. I'm really tired.
And it was just after this, I think Monday, CDC came out with the 5-day, and then just yesterday, and this is right in line with what you're saying, that the Omicron variant appears to incubate in 3 days, where the Delta was 4 and the original was 5.
Yep. It's turning into a cold. I remember that verbiage early on when everybody was saying, "Oh, it's just a cold." Well, now it's kind of getting there, where it is spreading fast and it's symptomatic. I think the most badass thing about COVID was that it hid for so long, and then it took so long to treat. Right. So it's too patient for our lack of patience, right? There's too many of us that are instant gratification, especially now. And so if we don't see the connection between, I had contact with this person who was asymptomatic, and then 2 weeks later I got sick, right? That connection was just too much for people. But now with this, that person has symptoms, and 3 days later I have symptoms. Okay, that makes sense, right? And then people can start to wrap their little brains around it, right? And so I think that will help, right? It'll help, because then people will be a little bit more conscious of what's going on.
So do you think, it's been talk, is Omicron an endemic now? Is that where we're headed, they think?
We're definitely headed for coronavirus to be endemic. There's no mechanism for us to get to herd immunity and squash it. It's going to be here.
Right.
And so if Omicron ends up being mild, if Omicron ends up something that does not increase hospitalizations, it's a good sign that we are in that phase. Now, could it mutate to something that is bitey, right? Could it mutate? It could, right? And that's the problem, is that, we can't just resign and say, okay, well, it's endemic, it's not a big deal, because a variant that comes out that is Omicron but deadlier, which I don't know from an immunologist standpoint. I'm not one of those guys. I just listen to what they say because I'm a moron. They say that that's not preferred, but it could happen, right? We could mutate to something that kills more people. So there's always that, but who really knows at this point? We're just kind of like winging it, right?
Well, you're certainly, one thing that I completely disagree with you are not a moron. You have just done a phenomenal.
We'll say. Yeah.
You've done a. I'm talking. Don't about that, because we're just about out of time. But you were a wealth of information here. Some things I didn't even know, and the way you described it, you did it very, very eloquently with telling a story and the parts of the parts of the story.
I do want to add something nice, though, in all sincerity. I mean, this region, I'm sure Neil's not the only one, but I mean, think about how many lives he's probably saved through his efforts.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And, between the vaccinations and the test and just him, honestly, I mean, this community will be for eternally grateful to you.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that a lot. And
it's probably the last nice thing I'll ever say about you, but I'm going to say it, okay?
I would feel bad if we didn't mention Morgan. Holy cow, she became a hero too.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And your whole staff, like I said, when I was there last week, they were fantastic. You got a great crew around you, and what you guys have done is just, we'll forever be grateful to you.
It's pretty amazing, right? So, Morgan and Ann, those are the 1 and 2, right? So Morgan is, now she's just running this shop, keeping that together, and then Ann is helping out and with the testing and the vaccines, and, all of these folks are really dedicated to this cause. They want people to do better, right? And so, when we hear things like when we offer a restaurant, remember when those restaurant days, right? Get all the restaurant workers, right? So we offered, and a number of restaurants turned us down. And when we hear one of those employees dies, that hurts. We know it was a decision process. But we also know we tried it whatever we could, and it was turned down. And so, we take this very personally. So
now you hit a point right there, Neil, because we were talking earlier about how, we didn't know anybody had passed, and recently I did, and one of them was a restaurant worker who I coordinated with you to go to the restaurant and do shots, and they're one that chose not to get it,
That's right.
And it hurts. It hurts a lot.
And it's difficult for me to see people resist and then try to stand in the way of this work. But I know that there's so many more people that are appreciating the work, and so we just kind of focus on that, so.
Keep doing what you're doing, because we are grateful. We're very, very thankful that we've got you here in the community doing what you've done since the very, very beginning.
Indeed.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking time out of your busy, crazy, hectic schedule. It was great hearing from you. You stay safe and be well, and we'll talk again.
All jokes aside, Neil, I love you, buddy.
Yeah, take care, Bob. Bye.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
I've been fortunate with my employees, knock on wood. I've had.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners. That was quite an interesting half hour. We are expecting, I'm hoping Dan Whelan from the Boys and Girls Club will be calling in, and we'd love to hear from you. Also, 331-9255 is our call-in number. In the studio here is Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties.
Good morning.
And Bill Murphy, the mayor from the Village of Saugerties. And Neil has such a wealth of information, yes. Number one, and yes, birthdays. What a great half hour.
Yes. I'm actually like almost
We should try to see if we can get him on
right now, so
once a month. I know your schedule's full, but maybe he could go in that slot. Remember
But previously, I think I've asked him 3 or 4 times, and he's just been so busy.
I know,
and he
with COVID.
Apologizes, too. And I said, you don't have to apologize. That's the last thing in the world you have to do. So that may be Dan Whelan calling in. So... All right, so what do we got here? We got some birthdays today?
Yep, so Wednesday, December 29th, please wish a happy birthday to Todd Van Etten from your friends and family.
Mayor, you got anything?
I got nothing.
Only one birthday today.
One birthday.
So today's winner of the famous cow pie is Todd Van Etten.
Ooh.
Todd, happy birthday. Congratulations. When you get the opportunity, get down to Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, or right here in Kingston, New York. Pick up that famous cow pie, courtesy of Boyce Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. And listeners, viewers, it's very, very easy to send those birthdays in. You can email to kcr921@gmail.com. You can postal mail to KCR, P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York, 12402. So once again, Todd Van Etten, congratulations, happy birthday, have an awesome day. And I believe we've got Dan Whelan from the Boys and Girls Club with us.
Yep, good morning.
Hey, Dan, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fine, thank you.
Morning, Dan.
Morning, everyone.
So, a lot of good stuff happening that you spearhead and you're doing with the Boys and Girls Club and some other endeavors. I know we had conversation probably a month or more ago about your schedule from early in the morning until later in the evening, and I got your text this morning because I think I fell asleep in the recliner last night a little bit earlier than I normally do, and you were playing ball, and I'm sure you were playing ball with the youth of our community.
At the Donnellan. I heard him up there.
So why don't you give our viewers and listeners just go over some of the programs that you're providing and all the good stuff that you're doing at the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. It's been you look at the end of the year, you look back at the year, it's been crazy to think about where we started, and where we are. For the club, it's just been a complete transformation. I mean, we spent the first half of the year, being open from 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock at night, doing virtual schooling during the day. Then after school, more of our per regular programming at night, which was a huge endeavor to tackle. And then in the summer, we reverted back to our summer model, which is again a long 8 to 7 model. And then September, when school resumed in regular format, we went back to our regular model, which we were happy to be in. It's just it's been a real difficult year of it seems like we're shifting gears every 3 months, which takes a whole new effort, a whole new planning. But I mean, we have to say that we couldn't be happier with what we've been able to provide, what we've been able to do, but also just where we are. The club has been vibrant. It's been busy. It's just as busy as it's ever been. And it's, we're providing a lot of quality programs. As like things start to move toward more of a normal situation. School's been in all year. For us, I mean, we really see it as we kind of switched our mold the last 2 years, and now we're back into hours, and this is just starting. This is where the recovery happens for our kids. Getting them active again, having the conversations about what's going on. What type of trauma, what type of things are you thinking about now? How's your mentality changed? And how to be, again, engage kids and make sure that they're active in positive pathways. So, just a quick review of the year is just as crazy. I was thinking about it when I drove in this morning. It was just like, wow, we switched so many times. As far as programs and such, one thing that we're really happy on, which we're trying to continue to do, is we've been doing a lot of collaborations with Saugerties Club, with Kingston Club. Both, attending programs at each club. We have staff moving back and forth, which provides a lot more aspects, and people have talents in different areas, and diversity, and just meeting people from other areas. So I mean, that's something that's a big focus. And we had a great year as far as our ability to receive support from our community, as we always do, which helps us to then reach out and give back to the community. And one of the biggest things for me has been being able to really show that we're a community organization. We worked with Dinah Mills, to provide Thanksgiving dinners. We're providing meals on a regular basis through support of the community at the club. And it's just, these are things that we try to reach out and do even beyond just our regular borders.
You guys are always at the forefront of that. And, some of the programs I think you've came up with are creative, and they are welcoming, because not every young child is artistic or athletic or both, or many of those things. And I think the menu that you've put together to give each child that opportunity to express themselves and learn and grow is notable for sure.
Yeah, one cool program that we're excited about is I've watched it kind of grow over the last couple of years. Is our cooking program. We've been working with the kids, trying to get them more handy in the kitchen. These are things that lead to jobs. Obviously, especially in Saugerties, a booming, restaurant, hospitality businesses, and try to put them in positions for that. But also just life skills so they can live effectively, affordably. And we've had these progressions where we've gone down to the farmers market and we've gotten goods, as well as grown some in our garden behind the club, taking those. Use what we had there to make stuff for our kids, and it's cool to see evolution.
And that's a perfect example. Cooking is a creative outlet. It has an opportunity. It's also a life skill and a work skill. It's a terrific example of a creative way that you give young folks an opportunity to learn and grow and mature into young adults.
Hey, Dan, I was talking with Joanna Black last week, and she's telling me you guys are partnering with her as well now, right?
I'm sorry, that didn't come in, Bill.
Joanna Black, you guys are partnering with her group now, Woodstock.
You said with Joanna, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. We've had a lot of people reaching out to us about what we can do, and I know that Joanna Black has reached out to us about how we could be supportive. And thanks for bringing it up too, because the question was, what do we need the most? One of the things we have focused on for the next year or two is we really need for the club to be open on Saturdays. I mean, and we're working on that in both clubs, because the problems don't go away on Saturday. And one of our frustrations is that if a kid doesn't come to the club on Friday, then for 3 days they may not see one of those positive role models or have those interactions that keep them online, and that's too big of a gap. So I know Joanna's working with us as well as some other people on what do we do? How do we get this to the space as well as, like we just talked about, food. Food is very important. Through COVID, there's a lot of lefts, rights, ups, and downs, and we're looking to dive into some ideas or programs of how we can provide a good, healthy, hot meal every day.
Do you do a backpack program on weekends?
Sorry, what did you say?
Do you have a backpack program for weekends?
No, we don't right now. We've had times where, and this is something I encourage all people to take into account. Right now, this month we have, and we've been on top of. We got a big donation from the Elf Club that got toys for our kids. We worked with adopted a family. We got 15 families in. So for Christmas, we sponsored their toys through the Elk sponsorship. But the thing is, we do this month, and then when January and February comes around, in March, it starts to get dry. So we seem to have it in pockets, and what we need to do is provide a more sustained program.
Okay. You can see the link to the holiday season. Around Christmas, people are feeling
Thanksgiving and
benevolent.
Christmas, right? Yep.
And they want to make sure, which is great, but those other months are equally as important. People get hungry every day.
Exactly.
So good. I'm glad we brought that up. But
I had quite a conversation with Joanna yesterday, and we're going to try to get her on the show next month. I know some of the things that she had mentioned that she's trying to put in place with you folks. I think it's just awesome. And that's the old Red Onion, how she's converted that space up there, and I'm hoping to get the opportunity. Yeah, up on 212 as you're going up towards the landfill.
That was the original building for Red Onion?
That's the way she projected it to me.
Okay.
Yesterday, yeah.
Because Red Onion's still there. I don't know if
she's right next door to Red Onion right now, but I don't know the history of.
which building they started out in.
Yeah, right. The building that she's in, I could be wrong, is where Red Onion first started.
Started out, okay.
And then went to the building that's on, I believe. Now, I could be wrong. She just had we had quite a conversation, and I could have botched it, but that was my understanding. And I believe years ago, that's I believe the Red Onion was in that building there, not in the building that presently
they're in
is.
now. Okay.
And if any of our listeners or viewers happen to know that, give us a shout at 331-9255.
Hey, I trust you guys. You guys got a couple more years on me, so you guys.
Thanks, Dan.
I got a little more in a couple.
Yeah. Nice how you found a way to squeeze that in.
Hey, and guys, for us, I just want to put out there the things we're talking about and how this we're hoping and dreaming that this culminates is that we want to continue to connect with our local businesses and have provide opportunity, not just resources but opportunity. Our big focus is over the next 1 to 3 years is going to be how do we develop programs and link with local businesses and local community organizations that give our kids specific skills that lead to jobs that are available in our community. I feel like there's a major gap. I want to say disconnect, like a gap, that kids think college or nothing, or this huge job or nothing. And there's so many great jobs that in our community that kids can work in and work through successful careers and retire from. So we want to really do our best to continue to connect with our community organizations. So on a call like this, anyone in the Saugerties community, Kingston community that want to be a part of it, we want to develop the pathways to successful lives for youth in our community that can grow up and stay around their families right here.
That's great. That's because you just far too many times individuals that whether they go on to college, there is not the opportunity locally here, and they locate elsewhere, or they don't go to college. And unfortunately, as you put it, that should not be the case, the picture anymore, where it's college or nothing, because that's certainly not the case. And let's face it, every individual is not made out for college, and there's so much right now in the trades industry, all the trades across the board, and a lot of that is locally. A lot of it is in Ulster County and in Saugerties.
I had the pleasure this summer. I had I had a kid, summer help, who graduated this year. Great kid, and I knew he didn't want to go to college. School just wasn't for him. And we had an opening. And over the summer, as a summer help kid, he was taking classes at Ulster for a possible career with the village in the wastewater department and water department. Signed up for a class before we even hired him full time. Wow. And then the position opened up, and we hired him full time. And here he is, 18 years old, got a full time job with benefits and a career. He's
happy.
He's already completed his water certification. Now he's working on his wastewater certification. And I said, listen, in 5 or 10 years, you can be running the show here. And it's great because there's a kid, great kid, just college wasn't for him. And I know his parents are thrilled.
He's a great young man too.
Yeah, and I just yesterday had another kid from the same graduating class. He was a summer help kid. He worked for me all summer. And he actually worked through the fall. We kept him on. We had a need for him. And he came back to me yesterday and goes, Mr. Murphy, I'm not moving like I thought I was. Any chance I can get on full-time? And I said, well, I don't have the position right now, but I will bring you on part-time, full-time, and let's see how it goes. And he's friends. It's just nice to be able to, like you said, those kids are the gap kids who aren't going to go to college, but they need to find a path.
And I've experienced that with several.
Oh, I think I took my lead from you, no doubt.
One, just a very, very similar scenario came to me last year, and he wasn't permanent full time at the time, and was going to go to Ulster, and this was like with HVAC over 16 weeks, I think the course spanned, and was going to pay the full tuition himself. Right. And I just thought that was just phenomenal. He would take that interest, and then we ended up
reimbursing him
50%.
Yeah, I did the same thing for
my
guy.
Because somebody takes that initiative.
Right.
There's two sides every coin, and two sides every street.
You could pay for it, and he could leave you and go someplace else and work.
Well, there's always that. There's always that possibility. But if he hadn't done that, I don't know if I would have brought that recommendation to the board to move him from temporary part-time to permanent full-time. So what Dan is saying here with some of the youth coming out of the Boys and Girls Club, to see that scenario unfold, or even like you could almost look at that like a youth apprenticeship that would lead into a very worthwhile career in your own community and raising a family in your own community.
Like Dan said, restaurant and tourism is huge in our area right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And he has great programs that can really start. And if you look around right now, a lot of these restaurants are, I know, Dan, have you looked into that? 'Cause even today, still a lot of restaurants are looking for part-time employees. Have you thought about, maybe reaching out and see, get some of these kids some part-time jobs to start?
Yeah, for sure. We often have people reach out, and like I said, we're still rebuilding to get back, and put these programs in place. But absolutely, that's exactly what we want to do. But what we want to do is become the primary. Right. Is once you have an established program, hey, call up and see who in this program
is available.
Is looking for a job. Yep. So instead of us searching all the places for them.
No, that's great. I think it's going to be, no doubt.
They're going to throw you a compliment because my involvement with Boys and Girls Club started as a board member of the town, and we dealt with Joe Fay for years. And he was incredible, and he certainly deserves a lot of credit for advancing and bringing Boys and Girls Club to Saugerties and all the good work that happened there. But the advantage he had, which you in your tenure have not experienced whatsoever, is there was a stability behind him. Once you establish something, the opportunity to build on that existed. And in your instance, that is absolutely not true. For the past 2 years especially, you've kind of had to creatively reinvent the club's role, how you might provide services, and where you fit into the community. And, the three of us sitting here remember a year ago when you guys were one of the key instruments in us getting food out to families who were in need. That was a creative reinvention of the club, and you've stayed engaged in that capacity in so many ways. So I hope the opportunity for you to establish things and use those as a foundation to move forward comes soon. And your energy and your vision, I think, will really be a true asset for the club moving forward and the community, because we benefit directly from that.
Well, I appreciate that, greatly. Obviously the last 2 years everyone had to reinvent the wheel, but we're really focused on just what does the community need? Just being, I'm going to say it over and over again, right? Just being a community organization. And, that's the most thing we're proud of over the last 2 years. The last 2 years, it was, okay, we don't need this right now. We need that. So this is what they need, and we got to change. But I mean, we're only as good as our relationships and support from the community. You know, like I can say that, oh yeah, we're so great, but we can't with the spacing and the numbers. We can't provide as much as we did for those kids without Mayor Murphy letting us use the downland for extra space. We would have been cut down by 20 kids. You know, so there's stuff like that. You know, that we'll do what we can, but it's all as a result of our relationships and support from the community.
Yeah, I think that's something worth noting too. The storage facility is not old per se. However, you guys are bursting at the seams. It's full, right. And then some. You have developed a need for more space and creatively found ways to do that. But long term on the horizon, I imagine you have some type of capital plan in mind.
Yeah, that's the biggest struggle for the Boys and Girls Club in Saugerties is that we've outgrown the building, and where it gets really difficult, it's not even just space as much as targeted programming, right? You're talking about ages. In Saugerties we go 6 to 18. That's a gap, and when they're in one space, it's difficult to provide targeted activities. Appropriate conversations with a 15-year-old is not an appropriate conversation with an 8-year-old. So, finding those ways, the little nooks and crannies to try to get into to have these conversations become difficult. And then often at times, there may be some younger parents who are deterred because of the age gap that's in there, and maybe some older kids who are, there's a lot of younger kids. And, we dealt with this in Kingston. We just have a larger facility, so we've been able to get to a point to where we can divide it, and you can see the response, grow. And I'm just hoping to try to figure out how to make that same thing happen in Saugerties, just so we can reach more kids, provide more targeted programming. But I mean, you're spot on. I mean, we're busting at the seams, and we're outgrowing the space,
which is a good thing. It obviously creates a challenge, but it's the demand for the service is clearly there, and the positive impacts that it has is clearly there as well. So I imagine as things progress and we get to a more stable normal, that the community will become increasingly aware of that and be willing to support whatever efforts you guys envision to continue to serve.
Yeah, and I think, too, just to back on that is I think we need to be aware of our surroundings, and that, I know with SAA, I know Mayor Murphy and Greg, you guys do everything that you possibly can, but there's so many instances of downtime, like, once it gets cold, and how many different types of programs can you provide? Not Saugerties is limited by indoor space, period. You have the ice arena as well. But I say this because, I'm obviously in two communities, and when I'm in Kingston and I talk to the kids, and there's the Y, the Hodge Center, the club, the downtown center, the midtown center. It's just such a conglomerate, and that's just off the top of my head, of places. And, we do need more space for our kids in Saugerties.
Yeah, that's very, that's very, very evident. And I mean, we've experienced that with the SAA not being able to provide any of the volleyball leagues because there just is not that space available any longer.
Well, because of COVID.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Part of it, right,
But, even though before the pandemic,
it was getting tighter.
It was getting tighter and tighter and tighter and more difficult, and I don't get involved with the volleyball leagues and stuff. And, my involvement with the SA is not to what it used to be, but still I am involved. But you hit the nail right on the head, Dan. I mean, because I've gone in there at different times, whether to drop a check off, whether to pick up poinsettias, whatever it happens to be. You're busting at the seams.
No, think about it, like just what you're alluding on, Dan. I mean, the Donnellan is the only municipal auditorium in Saugerties.
Yeah.
And I could book that out 24/7 if I had to. I mean, and I try to set aside enough time for my leagues or SA leagues, which are for the kids, and then you have the adult groups, and it's. I mean, I don't think a night goes by where I don't get a text from a kid in the community say, "Hey, Mr. Murphy, can I get in the Donnellan tonight?" And if it's open, I'll run over and I'll sneak them in for an hour or whatever. But we could, and I've had other parents come to me saying, "Hey, we need to build a municipal gym," and you're right, but who's going to fund it? That's the problem.
That's the thing. At one time there was talk about that in the capital projects for the school. Now I don't know if that remained or not. Because that's got to be getting pretty close to be kicking off, groundbreaking, right?
I don't know I don't know it well enough to answer that question. We're going to have to get some school official.
You know,
Yeah.
we haven't had Kirk on in a long time.
He's due.
He's due. Yeah.
And I know they want to restructure the school and create somewhat of a middle school type concept. So I think it would be helpful to our listeners and to us to have that come on and have that conversation on air, and we can share it with our listeners. But those resources, and one of the things that Saugerties is noted for, but it is understated entirely, is the synergy between the school district and the town. The baseball facility that's on Cantine Field is the school's facility as well, and that's true for many of those sports. The wrestling team, tennis, yep. So that synergy is cost saving, but it elevates the importance that those facilities are available, and the demand for them is only going up. Right. So it's
and I got to tell you too, guys, that as you bring that up, talk about a group of people that have had to change their molds over the last 2 years too, right? Schools. I have to say, over the last year, our communication with the Saugerties Central School District has been amazing. Yeah. Like it's really, really just helped with us on our mold. What are you guys doing? How can we help you? How can we help you? And it's really, really, really just taken off. And I give the new administration there just a huge credit to that, because it's difficult maneuvering this time. It's great to be able to get someone on the phone so easy and say, what are we going to do? I think actually, right, guys? I mean, all of us jumped in on the meeting right away when the pandemic happened. Said, what are we going to do?
No. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is certainly understated. And with Kirk there and Dan Ersick,
and it started
Taylor in the business office.
And to credit, it started with Tom Averill a couple years when COVID first started, and then it spun into Kirk and Tim, and like you said, it's just. You've really seen the value of the relationship between the school district, Boys and Girls Club, the municipalities. I mean, what we've collaborated on over the last 2 years is amazing, and people don't know enough about that.
Yeah. Are we out of time?
Unfortunately, Dan Whelan, we are out of time. That half hour just flew by. Thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule, and I'm sure we'll have you on the air. In the future.
A little over 3 months to the big day, Dan. You get nervous yet?
I'm nervous for what? I'm nervous for the bill.
All righty, thank you very much, and you have yourself an awesome day.
Thanks, Dan.
Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.
It's time for a break, and we'll be back in a few, listeners.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
And you're not safe there.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners that have been with us. And we're already in our last half hour, believe it or not. 331-9255 is our call-in number. In the studio here with me is Supervisor Fred Costello from the town of Saugerties.
Good morning.
Village Mayor William Murphy, who's getting a refill on his coffee. And on the line, I believe we have Jillian Crane. Good morning, Jillian.
Yes, you do. Yes, good morning. Good morning, Greg.
So for our listeners and viewers, what is your official title capacity?
I am president of the First Responders Children's Foundation.
Okay, I thought so, but I didn't want to introduce you saying that in case I was wrong.
I knew that because I looked at the webpage yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, right?
Very good. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your very, very busy day. And, you know, I'm sure there's a large percentage of the Saugerties community, maybe not so much after the last 2 years, of everything that you folks do with the children's first responders. So we'd love to hear about that and all the good things you have done and the 2 successful events over the past 2 years that have taken place at the Cantine Complex. So give it a wail there.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me on this morning. I really appreciate the invitation, and it's been really wonderful to spend time up there in Ulster County with you and with all of the members of. There's so many wonderful first responders there, and really, I mean, I'll give a brief description of who we are for people who don't know. But First Responders Children's Foundation started 20 years ago in response to 9/11, actually, when 800 children lost a first responder parent on that day. And from there, we've basically become a national organization, and we're in most every state with many of our programs, which are scholarships for children of first responders who've been killed or injured in the line of duty, or first responders who are currently working and have financial issues and need help with college. We also provide bereavement assistance, and sadly, through COVID, that's been, a very large part of what we've been doing. And we have a mental health program that we're working to expand and looking to expand, especially now. And then our wonderful event that we had with you all up there is our Toy Express, where we brought, maybe 50,000 toys and worked with Chief Sinagra and the fire department and the sheriff's department to bring toys to the first responder agencies and also to children up in the area. So people came with their cars and we gave out toys, and it was really a great way, I think, one, to help with some mental health stress, but two, to bring a little joy to children of first responders and just children in the communities who've really been struggling with anxiety, with fear around COVID, and also just the financial situation right now is difficult. So our toy partners were very helpful in that. And actually, we were in 100 cities around the country in this Toy Express. So hundreds and hundreds of thousands of toys went out this year. We were in Kentucky where they had the tornado. One of the volunteer firehouses was destroyed by the tornado. And so we brought toys for those first responders who really were, just in complete upheaval so that they could bring a little joy home to their children. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And actually, CSX is one of our partners, has given us a $20,000 scholarship just for this area in Ulster County to find a child of a first responder who is in need of a scholarship. So if anyone's listening, please do go to our website and see the application process.
That's phenomenal. And, just listening to what you said, I mean, seeing the joy on some of those kids' faces. And I remember last year, I told Bob Circusano that I would be there to help him in the morning. Had, really no intentions of staying the entire day. Stayed the entire day right to the end and then some. But it just gives great pleasure to see all the children, and there are so many, you hit the nail on the head, there are so many needy children, so many needing families, the finance burdens that a lot of families are facing, and with what you folks do and what you folks are able to provide. And I remember having a conversation with either Chief Sinaga or Bob Circasano a week or so before. I think it was Bob, and he said, because of supply chain, we're not going to have as many toys and stuff to give away. I thought it was more.
And we had surplus.
I remember meeting you, by the way, the first year, and it was kind of an amazing event. It was so great to meet Bob Circasano and everybody up there and all the people that joined together to bring some joy to that community. But I also feared we would not have toys, and so did our team. And so we worked very hard to make sure, we just went to all of our toy partners and donors, and we ended up buying some toys, just because we wanted to make sure that we could bring some joy up there and around the country at a time that was, we felt really it was needed. And now, I think because the supply chain is getting better, we're going to have even more toys next year. So hopefully we'll be able to do the event again with you, with everybody up there, with Chief Sinaga and everybody else.
I think, what was it, this year we had, 600 families on the list that were scheduled to come?
Yeah, that sounds correct. Yeah, that was a pretty amazing experience. And, obviously the point was to help others. But I think we helped each other by being there and sharing in that Christmas spirit. I know I was there with Greg opening boxes and unloading vans, and I certainly left feeling better than I did when I got there.
No, it's definitely contagious.
I think that's, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, we were celebrating that that is what Christmas is all about. It was pretty. It felt great to be there. It felt great to be part of that energy, and I think that was shared by all that participated. Certainly, Sawyer Motors and their staff kind of sets that bar, but all the firehouses that were there, and all the volunteers that came, it was. I think it was special for everyone.
And when I noticed this year,
I think it's such an amazing way to also bring different first responders together. You have the highway patrol and the sheriff's department and the firefighters and the volunteer firefighters, and really bringing first responders together to be part of something that makes them feel good, and all of the towns and all of you who helped unpack those boxes, which is not a small thing, and give out those toys. And we have a staff member up there named Joanna Black who helped organize that event and brought us up there the first time to meet everyone. So this is a really important relationship to the foundation.
Yeah, I remember when Joanna first contacted me last year. This is Bill, and it took me a couple conversations with her to wrap my head around it, and and the first thing I said to her, I said, you need to talk to Bob Circasano, and she's like, I already did, and I'm like, well then, that's just the way to go, obviously. And last year, we combined the two because of COVID. Now this year, Bob still did his own giveaway on our Christmas in the Village, and then we had, which I think is even better because the people who missed Christmas in the Village then got an opportunity a week later to, come to the second giveaway. So I think we definitely hit many more families this year than we did the first year.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. Without
a doubt, because we had the double whammy in two opportunities.
So. It was a beautiful day, too, man. It was like...
It was wrong. It was wrong to be there. It was in the 60s. It felt great.
Like you said, that you get there, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go up there for an hour. I was there for 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
it's like, you don't want to leave. And I noticed this year with the first responder volunteers, the firemen and the policemen, same people we had last year and a whole nother crew.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's becoming contagious between them. Like, there was twice as many first responders there this year helping out than there were the first year.
And I know we spoke about this before, but I don't want to let it go because I think we're so proud of the program. But you folks are the grant sponsor for the Lights On program. And that,
I was going to say that as well.
That, we were so proud that we were the first ones to do that, and we certainly would not have been able to do that without the support of the foundation. And I think that is it. That is the reinvention of policing and how policing will look in the future. And that is really what they're out there to do, is to protect and serve, and being able to go to someone who has a light out and say, we're not going to ticket you for the equipment violation, but we're going to give you a voucher to help you make the repair. That's proactive policing, and I think that benefits residents who can build a better rapport. You know, you're not going to feel intimidated when you see a police officer if they're truly there to help.
One of my daughter's friends who slept over the last week, she got up in the morning, she's like, Bill, I'm like, what? She goes, I got one of these last night. And it was to get her lights fixed in her car. I said, oh, you got pulled over, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm like, she goes, what's it mean? I said, take it to the, take it to the dealer.
Sawyer.
And Sawyer and get your lights fixed. She's like, oh, okay. She goes, I really didn't understand why he was giving it to me. So it was kind of cool to see it working.
It's a great program. It is such a worthy program. You are an example to be set for the rest of the country. We were so proud to be part of that. I think Lights On is really not only community policing, building bridges to the community from the public safety end of things, but it's also bringing in the community itself, like, you know, the car dealerships, right? To say we're going to help with this process because you need your community, you need the first responder agency too, you need the city. And I think if that were done in other towns in this country, it would be a huge, huge success, and it would be a really important way, I think, to give people a different perception of policing, right? That when you get stopped by a police officer, it's not going to make your life necessarily worse, right. Where you get a ticket that you can't afford, and then it just propels you downward, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just seems, just such a great way, and we've been part of other programs to really help first responder agencies build that bridge. I think it's a really important part of the mission of the First Responders Children's Foundation, and I hope we can do more of it. And I hope people in other places will come to you and say, how did you do this program? And really follow in your footsteps, because we were honored to partner with you and Chief Sinagra and everybody up there. It's a really powerful and great program for so many reasons.
It is. And I think those reasons make it inevitable that will spread to other agencies across the country. And I just, it's hard to predict how long that's going to take, but the reasons that make it the right thing to do are true in any community across the country. So I do believe it will spread. Another thing you folks worked on, and I think gets understated, is your commitment to the community and the work you did in New York City restoring parks and basketball courts.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, well, the NYPD and federal law enforcement, they were really the ones that, got all the funding for it and did all the work to renovate basketball courts in 15 locations in the public housing in 5 boroughs. And they're not finished. There are going to be some parks happening soon as well. With the same idea, right? The message is these are communities that aren't necessarily cared for, that feel sort of left out, underserved, living in places that aren't ideal for children necessarily. And they went in and said, okay, we're going to renovate these spaces. We're going to bring the communities here. We're going to show them that we care. And also, we found a way to just, I guess one of the chiefs called me the summer Santa, because we provided toys and book bags at all of the events over the summer. So we could bring a little joy to the community while supporting the NYPD, federal law enforcement, and other foundations came together to say, hey, we care. We want to help children have a different reaction to the police when they see them, when they see public safety. We want to, even if it's just, this moment of non-tension and of support and care. And seeing first responders playing basketball with the kids and giving out toys to the community, those kinds of things. It's it's a small thing, but it's hopefully over time will really have an impact. So when there is conflict, these other ways that, kids have a positive reaction and a positive interaction with public safety, it might prevent a life from being taken.
That's a very good point. That's a very excellent point. Obviously, you hear these scenarios all the time, and if just something, even as little as playing basketball, or no matter what it is, to save a life.
Yeah. And again, I hope other communities around the country can find ways to do it. I think it was sort of forfeiture money coming from drugs and guns and taking things that are sort of bad moments and bad things that happen and putting it back into the community to create a different ending for people, to create a relationship that people feel is positive. So yeah, we want to be more involved with things like that, and also, I think we've helped with your cadet program up there. I know you guys have a great cadet program, and we've done that in other cities as well. And we helped fund that in first responder agencies, and that brings in kids from the area, to learn about public safety and have a great experience in the summertime with police.
Yeah, that's the perfect outcome, and I do think there's a component of this, and I've certainly seen it with Bob and Larry's efforts through Sawyer Motors. They've raised the bar so high, but other folks kind of follow in that path that they blazed, and it's contagious in a sense. So the work you folks have done, I believe, will have the same effect, and other folks will realize that they can make a difference, and will follow that and do the same type of work.
I think you make a great point that people really, our donors, our individual donors, from $1 to $5 to $100, it really makes a difference. And even people who come to you and say, oh, what can we do to help an event you're having? I mean, it makes you feel like you're part of a community. And I think that's a great feeling right now when we all feel a little bit separate and a little bit anxious. And, one thing I think we could all agree on is during this crisis of a pandemic, first responders, medical personnel, nurses, they have put their lives on the line for their communities every day. And I think what I hope for the future of the foundation is that we don't just highlight them when there's a catastrophe or a fire or a pandemic or a tornado, but every day that these are the people in our community that we call kind of everyday heroes. Mm-hmm. They are running into danger for us and sacrificing their lives, sometimes making the ultimate sacrifice. And so we need to be there for them and their families. So I hope that message can get out into your community, and that's why I'm so excited to be on this radio show today, not to mention to hear your voices. You guys are fantastic up there.
We're being generous, but thank you. Also, you guys have had some really fun and creative things. The relationship that you had with George Strait facilitated the video that a number of Ulster County first responders are able to participate in, and that's a great story in itself.
Yeah, I feel like there should be a documentary just of the making of that video, right?
Yeah, there should be, I think. Yeah, that would be an interesting story.
And interviewed many of the first responders there, and I think the stories were really incredible. Again, another thing is, people get to really hear from the first responder themselves of what it's like, and what it's like for their children, their spouse, to have them go out every day into the community and not know if they're going to come home at night. I think it's really powerful. And in fact, we're launching a podcast next, which is going to be all about interviewing first responders, but not just like, hey, what's your job like, but who are you? What kind of person is it that becomes a first responder, and what drives them on a daily basis? And, how do they deal with fear and anxiety and danger? And I think it's called First on the Scene, and we're going to be launching it shortly. Just for that reason alone. I mean, we won't have as many people seeing the George Strait video yet, but we hope people will be interested in who these individuals are and want to hear more about them.
I'm also thinking there, could that also be a valuable resource tool to get younger individuals involved with volunteering and becoming first responders? One of the things that struck me was the Sunday back in December that you folks did. We did the first responders toy giveaway. Was the number of young volunteers that were in the Centerville Cedar Grove fire department? And I know, being a life member of Malden Westcamp Fire Company, we have several new members.
We do as well.
And a couple of them have taken initiatives to try to promote themselves through training and classes. Because, those are the people that are going to have to eventually serve as officers, as assistant chiefs, as chiefs. So I'm just thinking, as you were talking, that might also become a very, very valuable resource in getting an individual. There's a lot of young people that are always hesitant, or I don't know if I want to use the word, go as far as saying fearful of getting involved with a volunteer fire company, volunteer EMS, or even pursuing a career in EMS. where that may introduce them and possibly open the door.
Yeah, and we could tie that even to.
That's a good point.
Okay, Jillian.
No, I was going to go ahead, please. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, we could tie that into our previous caller, Dan Whelan from the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
About training these kids for future careers that might not involve college and things like that. And, for EMS, first responders is another career path for some of these kids.
Yeah, and you're right. The kids of today really, they're looking maybe more ways that they can serve and more ways that they can think about their lives. And you know what? I didn't even think about the podcast, but when you hear someone talking, right, that's how when we see someone doing something and we're moved by it, then we think, oh, I want to do that, right? So it's just a different way of telling a story, and maybe young people will respond to it. So it's a really great way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to hit on something real quick before, too, like you brought up. In our communities, CSX is not always looked on favorable in many of our communities, and I know they're a big partner, you guys, and it was great meeting their people last year when they came here, and I think it's important that they get the credit they deserve for what they do with your organization as well, because they're not always popular in communities because, the railroads.
There's
and
natural tension,
Right.
They're a neighbor in our communities, and we have residents who live near the tracks, and there's been occasions where normal activities occur where there's leaks or accidents or repairs that are needed, and Bill and I end up making those phone calls and doing something together with their leadership, puts that personal face on it. And
meeting them last year helped us get our tracks fixed quickly. So that was great.
One thing leads to another.
Absolutely. So I thank you for that.
Yeah.
And,
That's really great. That's interesting, right? Because if you live by the railroad tracks and they're out there fixing them and making noise and just kind of, being in the community, right? There's a sort of a double-edged thing, right? Is that the issue?
Yeah, it's exactly the issue. It's a tremendous resource for economics and transportation. However, trains can be noisy, and the infrastructure that supports them can be need maintenance and repair, and that's many residents. That's their experience. They're not. We don't think about, well, that's bringing me my fuel oil, or that's bringing me whatever. They just see that I had to wait, and that gate hasn't worked well in 3 days, and the bump that I go over when I cross the track is destroying the suspension on my car.
Or I had to wait in the line at the Ulster Avenue crossing that stretched back to Elizabeth Street or back to 212 or, 32.
Someone told me once there's 26 trains that go through Saugerties a day.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Really?
Yeah.
Most of them are overnight. I think the majority are overnight. But there's literally been times I've gone to CVS, hit a train, came out of CVS, hit another train.
Another train coming back.
I got to play a lottery ticket tonight.
Well, I thought that only happened to me.
One of the curious...
CSX has been a great partner, not only for the Toy Express, but for many things. And actually, it was CSX that when COVID first happened, and we were focused on scholarships and other things, I thought to myself, well, no one's really going to care about scholarships this year. We really have to do something. What about all the volunteer EMS, as you just brought up, and people who are going to lose their jobs and not have any safety net, who are going out and protecting their communities and picking people up in ambulances and all these things. So I said, should we go back to CSX and see if we could take their donation this year for scholarships and start a COVID-19 financial emergency fund and emergency hardship fund, and they agreed. And because of that, we were able to start, make the announcement that we were addressing COVID, and we were the first foundation in the first responder community that did that. And because of that, people recognized us. We were part of a big concert with Elton John. In the beginning, that Fox iHeart Concert for America with Elton John, which was that living room concert back then in March. And because of that, we were able to really grow and raise money and get the word out about who we are in other places that we hadn't been before. And that really helped us, change everything. So CSX really has been a great, great partner to First Responders Children's Foundation.
And I let people know that all the time, too, when they ask about your foundation. And I always tell them that CSX is a big part of it because, again, people only want to look at the negative, and they've been a huge asset here, and they deserve the credit for what they're doing.
And it does create challenges for us. The rail corridor that goes through Ulster County, links the port of Newark and the ports in Brooklyn.
Right.
And so a container that may come in to the port of Newark but needs to be put on a ship in Brooklyn has to travel from New Jersey through Ulster County, across the river by Coxsackie, back south into the boroughs to get loaded on a transport ship there. That is the only crossing, the one by Coxsackie. So this is a pretty vital and important piece of the national transportation infrastructure, and it does come with some inconvenience, but we do have good partners there that help us when there are problems. So,
absolutely.
Well, that's good to know. So you guys are a huge, really, your community is like integral in the supply chain of this country. So you should feel good about that, at least. That's a good thing to be able to say, although I'm sure it does cause some issues.
Well, we like to say we set the bar high here in Saugerties.
Yeah, we set the bar high.
We do.
You guys are making it really hard for me not to want to move, get a place up there. Really, every time I talk to you, it's just, what's going on here?
We'd love to have you.
Great
Yeah, there's some really nice housing stock available right now, and we're only a hop and a skip. Yes.
Yeah, tell Al to come to Saugerties. We could use him up here.
Love to have him. If you don't move, just visit more, because we enjoy when you do stop by.
I still want to see him in that Santa costume.
We are just about out of time. That half hour flew by. Jillian Crane, president of the Children's First Responders Foundation. Thank you very, very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure you had more. We'll have to get you back on here in the near future. But thank you very much, and have yourself an awesome day.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and thank you so much for having us and having me in the foundation and for all your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And what a great morning. Great guests. Thank you, Neil Smoller. Thank you, Dan Whelan. And again, thank you, Jillian Crane. Thank you, Mayor Murphy. Thank you, Supervisor Fred Costello. Thank you, Lawrence.
Yeah,
and
Happy New Year, guys. I guess when I see you next week, it'll be a new...
See you next year.
How fast did this year fly by?
I'm not going to see you till next year. And most importantly, viewers and listeners, and I know we had a lot of viewers on YouTube here this morning.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you very, very much. Happy New Year. Stay safe. Be healthy. And I'll see you next year.
Take care, everyone.